5 months ago. I couldn't speak. Not one full sentence in English. Every time I tried, my mind went blank. My tongue froze and shame filled my chest. I wanted to hide. Because how could a dreamer like me, someone with talent, with passion, be stopped by a few simple words? But that's the truth. I was trapped. Trapped inside a language I didn't understand. I watched opportunities pass me by. Jobs, conversations, confidence. And one night, after failing an interview that could have changed my life, I sat in silence and asked myself, is this it? Am I done? But deep inside, a voice whispered, no, Jake, you are not done. You're just getting started. That night, I made a decision. I would learn English --. Not someday, not slowly, but now. No excuses, no fear, no limits. This is the story of that promise. A story of pain, discipline, and transformation. And maybe it's your story too. Lesson 1, the big failure. I still remember that day. The day that broke me. The day that opened my eyes. My name is Jake. I'm 26 years old. I'm from Brazil. And 5 months ago, I couldn't even say, "How are you?" without fear. I had studied programming for years. My dream was to work for an international tech company, a big one, in the United States. I imagined the office, the team, the salary, the life, everything. Then one morning, I got an email. "Congratulations, Jake. You are selected for an interview." I screamed. I ran to tell my parents. I thought, this is it. My moment has come. But what I didn't know was that this moment would change my life in a way I never expected. The interview was on Zoom. 3 people joined, all native English speakers. They smiled. They spoke fast. Too fast. "Hi, Jake. Can you tell us a bit about your experience in software development?" My heart stopped. I understood the words, "Tell us about yourself." But my mind went blank. I knew what to say in Portuguese, but not in English. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. "Yes, I am software. I do coding. Many projects." Good. Silence. Long, heavy silence. The kind that hurts. One of them smiled politely. Another looked down at his notes. And I knew it was over. They asked a second question, a third question, but I was already gone inside my own head. My face was red. My hands were cold. My dream was slipping away in real time. At the end, they said those polite words that cut like a knife. "Thank you for your time, Jake." I closed my laptop and just sat there in silence. I had failed, not because I was bad at my job, but because I couldn't speak their language. That night, I could not sleep. I kept hearing their voices in my head, fast, clear, confident, and mine, broken, slow, empty. I realized something painful. English was not just a language. It was a key that opened doors to the world. And I did not have it. For years I had told myself, I don't need English. I'll just be good at coding. But that day, the truth hit me. Without English, I was invisible. Without English, my skills meant nothing. I looked in the mirror and saw a man who was smart, but silent, capable, but limited, hungry for change, but afraid to start. And that was the moment everything changed. Not because I got lucky, but because I made a decision. I said to myself, Jake, you will learn English. Fast. You will fight for it every day until you win. I didn't have money for classes. I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have a plan. But I had one thing, pain. And pain is a powerful teacher. I opened YouTube. I searched how to learn English fast. I watched videos for hours, not understanding much but refusing to give up. Every word was a battle. Every sentence was a small victory. At one point I closed my eyes and imagined the future. A future where I speak English freely. Where I walk into that same interview again, and this time, I own the room. And I knew it was possible, because if others could do it, so could I. That night was the end of my excuses, and the beginning of my journey. Every great story starts with a failure. Mine started with a broken sentence. Lesson 2, the decision to change. The next morning, I woke up early. The sun was rising, but inside, I still felt dark. I went to the kitchen, poured some coffee, and just stared at the cup. I thought about the interview, the silence, the failure, and for a moment I wanted to forget it. To say, it's fine. Maybe English isn't for me. But something inside me refused. A small voice whispered, Jake, you can stay broken, or you can rebuild. That voice grew louder, and I realized I had a choice. Many people think change begins when life gets better. Change begins when life gets painful enough that you say, enough. That morning, I reached that point. I didn't want to feel small anymore. I didn't want to watch opportunities pass in front of me. I didn't want to be the guy who always says, maybe later. So I made a promise, a serious one. I will learn English. Not someday, not when I have time. Now. I opened a notebook and wrote in big letters. Day 1. I start today. I didn't know how, but I knew why. And when your why is strong enough, you will always find your how. I sat on my bed and thought about what usually happens when people start learning English. They buy expensive courses. They memorize long lists of words. They give up after 2 weeks. I had already tried that. It didn't work. So this time I decided to do it differently. I asked myself, if I were a child again, how would I learn? Children don't study grammar books. They listen. They repeat. They make mistakes 1,000 times. And that's why they grow fast. So that became my rule. Learn like a child. Speak from day 1. No fear, no perfection, no excuses. I started by writing 50 simple sentences, things I needed every day. Hi, how are you? Can you repeat that, please? I don't understand. I'm learning English. I need a coffee. I promised to read them every morning, 10 times each, until they felt natural. My tongue felt heavy at first. My pronunciation was bad. But after a few days, something strange happened. I started to enjoy it. It was like training at the gym. Every repetition made me stronger. I also made another rule. English everywhere. My phone, English. My laptop, English. My playlists, my movies, my notes, everything in English. At first it was uncomfortable, but soon my brain started to accept it. English was no longer a subject. It became my world. Then I built my environment. I didn't have native friends, so I spoke to myself. While cooking, I said what I was doing. I'm cutting the onions. I'm making eggs. I'm eating breakfast. It felt silly, but it worked. Because I was training my brain to think in English, not just translate words. Day by day, something changed. My fear started to fade. My confidence started to rise. After 2 weeks, I listened to a podcast. I didn't understand everything, but I understood enough. And I smiled. For the first time, I felt progress. Small, but real. That night, I looked again at the words on my notebook. Day 1. I start today. I crossed it out. And I wrote, Day 15. I'm still here. That line meant everything. Because I wasn't just learning English anymore. I was learning discipline. I was learning who I could become. Change doesn't happen when you find the perfect method. It happens when you stop giving up. And from that day, I knew I would never go back. Lesson 3. The first 15 days. The first 15 days were the hardest, and also the most powerful. Because at the beginning, you don't see results. You just see effort. You speak alone. You make mistakes. You feel stupid. But something beautiful happens when you don't stop. I started every morning the same way. I sat by my small desk with a notebook, a cup of coffee, and my 50 survival sentences. I repeated them 10 times each. 50 sentences, 10 repetitions, every single day. It was like programming my brain. At first, I needed to think before I spoke. But after a few days, the words started coming out automatically. My tongue moved faster. My voice felt stronger. And for the first time, English didn't feel like a wall. It felt like a tool. One morning, while brushing my teeth, I caught myself whispering, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm getting ready for work. And I laughed. Because that was the moment I realized my brain was starting to think in English. I didn't study vocabulary lists. I didn't open grammar books. I lived with English. When I made breakfast, I described everything I did. I'm cracking an egg. I'm frying it in a pan. The smell is amazing. I turned my daily life into my classroom. At work, I wrote small notes in English. Simple things like, check this later, or fix this part of the code. Every little sentence was a step forward. And when I felt tired, I reminded myself of the interview. That silence that destroyed me. That memory became my fire. But still, after 10 days, something strange happened. I wanted to quit. My progress felt invisible. No one around me noticed a difference. I thought, maybe I'm wasting my time. But then, I remembered something I'd read online. If you can't see progress, look closer. So I looked closer. I listened to the way I spoke. I noticed my sentences were faster. My pronunciation was clearer. My fear was smaller. And that was enough. That night, I did something important. I recorded myself speaking for 1 minute. The topic was simple. My day. At first, my voice sounded strange. But when I compared it to my first recording from day 1, I almost cried. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. And better was all I needed to keep going. Then I added something new, what I call the echo practice. Every evening I watched a short video from a movie or podcast. I listened to one sentence. Then I paused, and I repeated it exactly like the speaker. Same tone, same emotion, same rhythm. It was difficult, but it worked. After just a week, my pronunciation started to sound more natural. Even my friends noticed it. "Jake, your English sounds different," they said. And I smiled, because now I had proof. 15 days had passed. I wasn't fluent, but I was fearless. And that was more important. I had learned one golden rule. You don't need to be perfect to start. You need to start to become perfect. That night, I wrote in my notebook again, "Day 15, I don't translate anymore. I speak." It was a small sentence, but for me, it was freedom. Lesson 4, the real practice begins. After 15 days, something inside me had changed. I wasn't afraid of English anymore. I was hungry for it, but I knew the truth. Saying short sentences was not enough. I wanted to have real conversations. I wanted to understand people when they spoke fast. I wanted fluency. So I created a new plan. A plan that felt simple, but turned out to be the most powerful thing I ever did. I called it the question-answer method. Here's how it worked. Every day I asked myself a question in English, and I answered it immediately, without thinking too much. Then I repeated the process with different answers. For example, question: what did you do today? At first my answer was short. I worked. But then I added more. I worked on my project. I worked on my project for 3 hours. I worked on my project for 3 hours. Then I took a break and had some coffee. Each time I expanded the sentence. Each time my brain learned to think faster in English. At first it felt strange, but after a few days, something clicked. Speaking began to feel natural. I did this for 30 minutes every day. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes before bed, sometimes while walking to work. I spoke out loud, even if people looked at me funny. I didn't care. I was training for my future. Then I added another layer, the echo technique. I chose short clips from movies or YouTube videos. I listened carefully to one sentence, paused, and copied it exactly. Same speed, same emotion, same tone. At first, I sounded nothing like the speaker. But after 10 repetitions, my voice began to match theirs. I was not just learning English words. I was learning English music, its rhythm, its feeling. Every day I felt a tiny improvement, and tiny improvements stack up fast. After 2 weeks, my pronunciation changed. People understood me more easily. I didn't sound like a robot anymore. I sounded alive, but it wasn't only about sound. It was about confidence. Because when you hear yourself speaking clearly, you start to believe in yourself. I also discovered a truth that most students ignore. Listening is training. Many people listen to English but don't really train. They play music in the background and hope it helps. It doesn't. So I changed my approach. When I listened, I focused. I paused often. I repeated. I shadowed. Every audio became my gym. Every sentence was a weight to lift. And the results were amazing. One night, I joined an online group for English learners. We were from different countries: India, Spain, Turkey, Brazil. At first I was nervous, but then I heard something that made me smile. A girl said, "Wow, Jake, your English sounds so natural." It was the first time anyone had said that to me. And I felt something inside me grow. Not just my English, my belief. Because you don't become fluent overnight. You become fluent the day you realize you're no longer afraid to try. So I kept going. Every day. Every sentence. Every mistake. By the end of that month, English was no longer a foreign language to me. It was a friend. Lesson 5. Building fluency and confidence. Fluency is not just about grammar. It's not only about vocabulary. It's about freedom. The freedom to say what you feel without fear. After 1 month, I could speak better. But still, something was missing. My words were correct. My pronunciation was okay. Yet, deep inside, I didn't feel confident. Every time I opened my mouth, a small voice whispered, "What if you make a mistake? What if they laugh? What if they don't understand?" That voice was my real enemy. So, I decided to kill that voice with action. I made a new rule for myself. Speak every day. No excuses. If I couldn't talk to someone, I talked to myself. If I was tired, I spoke while walking home. If I was shy, I spoke in my room, loud and proud. At first, it was uncomfortable, but I remembered something powerful. Confidence doesn't come before speaking. Confidence comes because you speak. So I pushed forward. Every night I recorded a short video, 1 minute of me speaking about anything. My day, my dreams, my goals. Then I watched it again. Sometimes I laughed at myself. Sometimes I felt embarrassed. But each video taught me something new about my pronunciation, my body language, my rhythm. And slowly I started to like the person I saw. Because when you see your own growth, you start to respect your own effort. I also learned to celebrate small wins. When I understood a podcast without subtitles, I celebrated. When a stranger understood my English, I smiled. When I finished a day without fear, I said, "Good job, Jake." It might sound simple, but these small moments built my confidence like bricks. Then came another breakthrough, shadowing. Shadowing means listening and repeating instantly. It's like running next to a native speaker, matching their pace. I chose short motivational videos. The speakers talked fast, but I didn't stop. I followed every word, every pause, every emotion. At first, I stumbled. But after a few weeks, something amazing happened. My rhythm changed. My tone became more natural. Even my emotion felt stronger, because shadowing is not only about sound, it's about energy. You feel the language. You become it. And one more thing changed my mindset forever. I stopped being afraid of mistakes. Before, I used to freeze when I said something wrong. Now, I laughed and corrected myself. Why? Because mistakes mean movement. If you're not making mistakes, you're not moving at all. So I started to collect my mistakes like trophies. Every time someone corrected me, I said, "Thank you." Every time I found a better way to say something, I wrote it down. Each mistake was proof that I was trying. And trying is everything. By the end of the second month, I was speaking faster, thinking faster, and feeling lighter. The fear that once controlled me was gone. One evening, while walking home, I realized I had been speaking to myself in English for 20 minutes without even noticing. That's when I smiled and said, "This is it. This is fluency. Because fluency is not a perfect accent or perfect grammar. Fluency is the moment your thoughts and your words finally move at the same speed. And I had reached that moment. Lesson 6. Facing native speakers. After 2 months, I felt strong. I could speak clearly. I could think in English. But one fear was still there. Talking to native speakers. Every time I imagined it, my stomach turned. What if I don't understand them? What if they laugh at my accent? What if I freeze again, like in that interview? That fear was deep, the fear of being small again. But I knew I had to face it, because you can't grow if you only play safe. So, one evening, I made a decision. I opened my laptop. I searched English speaking group online, and I joined one. My hands were shaking when I clicked Join Meeting. Suddenly, I saw faces from around the world, India, Spain, Japan, Turkey, and then I heard them speaking, fast, natural, real English. I froze for a moment. My old fear came back, but then I told myself, Jake, you didn't work this hard to stay silent. When it was my turn, I smiled and said, Hi everyone, my name is Jake. I'm from Brazil. I'm happy to be here. My voice was shaking, but I said it. And that was enough. The group leader smiled. Nice to meet you, Jake. Tell us, how long have you been learning English? I took a breath. 2 months, I said. Everyone looked surprised. 2 months? That's amazing, someone said. At that moment, something changed inside me. My fear turned into energy, and I started speaking more. I made mistakes, yes, but no one laughed. No one judged me. They listened. They helped. We talked about movies, food, culture, travel, and for the first time, I wasn't translating. I was communicating. That night, when the meeting ended, I couldn't stop smiling because I had faced my biggest fear and survived. From that day, I joined every session, twice a week, sometimes more. Each conversation felt easier than the last, and something magical started to happen. I began to understand jokes. Before, I could only follow serious talk. Now I laughed when others laughed, because I understood the meaning, the rhythm, the emotion. That was real progress. I also started making friends from countries I had never visited. We practiced together. We corrected each other. We encouraged each other. It was like building a small international family. And through those conversations, I learned a powerful lesson. You don't learn a language to be perfect. You learn it to connect. One evening, after a long talk, a girl from Spain said, Jake, when you speak, it's easy to understand you. Your English feels natural. I didn't know what to say, because for years I had dreamed of hearing those words. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, You see, you were never bad at English. You were just scared. And that's when I realized fear doesn't disappear before you act. It disappears because you act. The secret is not waiting until you're ready. The secret is speaking before you are. So I kept doing it. Every week, every meeting, every word, and with each conversation, I became not just a better English speaker, but a stronger person. Lesson 7. The breakthrough moment. There comes a day when everything clicks, when the effort, the pain, the repetition all make sense, For me, that day arrived quietly. No fireworks, no applause. Just a simple conversation that changed everything. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I was at home, sitting in front of my laptop. I joined another online English meeting, like I always did. But this time felt different. The topic was dreams and goals. The moderator said, "Let's talk about your biggest dream and what you're doing to reach it." My heart started beating fast. Because that question, it was my story. And before I knew it, I raised my hand. When my turn came, I smiled and said, "My biggest dream is to work for an international company as a software engineer." I failed my first interview because I couldn't speak English. But that failure changed me. Now I'm here, learning, practicing, improving, every day. The words flowed easily. No pauses, no fear, no translation. I saw people nodding on screen. I saw them smiling. They understood me. Not just my words, but my emotion. And in that moment I realized I was doing it. I was speaking English freely. The thing that once felt impossible was now happening. When the meeting ended, I sat there in silence. But it wasn't the silence of shame anymore. It was peace. It was pride. I opened my old notebook, the one with the words, "Day 1, I start today." And I added a new line, "Day 90, I did it." Tears filled my eyes, but they were happy tears. Because I knew that the man who had once failed that interview was gone. He had become someone new. That same night, I decided to test myself. I went to the company's website, the same one that had rejected me before, and I applied again. Same position, same dream, different me. 1 week later, an email arrived. "Congratulations, Jake. You've been selected for an interview." My hands were shaking as I read it, but this time, I wasn't afraid. The day of the interview came. I sat in front of the screen, took a deep breath, and smiled. 3 interviewers appeared, different faces, same company. They greeted me. They started speaking, fast, confident, natural, and for the first time, I understood everything. When they asked, "Tell us about yourself," I didn't panic. I didn't freeze. I answered with confidence. "My name is Jake. I'm a software engineer from Brazil. I've been learning English for 5 months, and it completely changed my life." They listened. They smiled. They asked more questions, technical, personal, creative, and I answered them all. The conversation flowed like music. At the end, one of them said, "Jake, your English is excellent. It's clear and confident. Well done." Those words, I will never forget them. When the call ended, I knew I had won. Not just the job, but the battle inside my mind. Because the real victory wasn't speaking perfect English. It was believing that I could. A few days later, another email arrived. "Jake, welcome to the team." I stared at the screen, unable to move. Then I laughed. Then I cried. I called my parents. "Mom, Dad, I got the job." My mother cried on the phone. My father said, "We always knew you could." And at that moment, I understood the real meaning of success. It's not about luck. It's about commitment, about standing up every time you fall. That day wasn't the end of my English journey. It was the beginning of a new one. A life with no limits. Lesson 8. Life after fluency. The first morning after getting that job felt unreal. I woke up early, the sun shining through my window, but the world around me looked different, brighter, calmer, alive. For the first time, I didn't need to translate my thoughts. I didn't need to fear conversations. English was no longer a wall in front of me. It was the bridge beneath my feet. I made coffee, sat at my desk, and smiled. 5 months ago, I couldn't say a single sentence. Now I was preparing to work with a global team. People from the US, India, Germany, Japan, and they would all speak the language I had once feared. When I joined my first team meeting, my heart beat fast again, but this time with excitement. They asked me questions. I answered naturally. They laughed at my jokes. They respected my ideas. That day, I realized something powerful. Fluency doesn't change your language. It changes your life. It gives you new friends, new jobs, new dreams, and a new version of yourself. Every day, I spoke with people from different countries. Every accent, every voice, every story taught me something. English became my passport to the world. But the biggest change wasn't outside, it was inside. I had built something more than skill. I had built discipline. I had built belief. Because once you teach yourself to learn one hard thing, you start believing you can learn anything. I started reading books in English, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I watched movies without subtitles. I even started thinking about teaching others how to do the same. One evening, I opened my old notebook again. I looked at those words. Day 1. I start today. And below it, the last line. Day 90, I did it. I added one more. Day 150. Now it's your turn. Because I knew there were millions of people out there, just like me, people who felt stuck, embarrassed, afraid to speak, and I wanted them to know the truth. It's possible. You don't need to live in an English-speaking country. You don't need to pay for expensive schools. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start and not stop. I began sharing my story online. People started messaging me. Jake, you inspired me. Jake, I started speaking today. Jake, I finally believe I can do it. Each message reminded me of my own journey, the fear, the silence, the small victories. And I realized, this is my purpose now. English gave me a voice. Now, I use that voice to help others find theirs. Sometimes when I think back to that failed interview, I smile, because that failure was not a punishment. It was a gift. A painful gift, yes, but one that opened every door that came after. If I could go back in time, I would thank those interviewers. Because without that moment, I might still be the same scared version of myself, dreaming small, waiting for a miracle. But life doesn't give miracles. Life gives moments, and it's up to you to turn them into change. So, if you are listening now, remember this. Your English journey is not just about words. It's about who you become along the way. The fear will come. The doubt will whisper. But keep moving, keep speaking, keep believing. Because one day, you'll wake up, just like I did, and realize that the person who once said, I can't, now says, I did. And that's the real meaning of fluency. Final message, the challenge to you. My friend, if you've listened this far, you already know the truth. Fluency is not luck. It's not talent. It's not a secret only a few people have. Fluency is a decision. It's the moment you stop saying maybe and start saying now. 5 months ago, I was lost. I couldn't speak. I couldn't understand. I couldn't believe in myself. But I made a promise. I said, I will learn. I will fight. I will not quit. And that promise changed everything. So today, I want you to make your own promise. Right now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Say it out loud. I will learn English. I will speak. I will not stop. Feel those words, because that's where every transformation begins. Inside you. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need a special accent. You don't need to be rich or travel the world. You just need courage. Courage to sound strange. Courage to fail. Courage to start again. Every mistake you make is a sign that you are alive, that you are growing. When you speak English, you're not just learning a language. You're building a new version of yourself, one that's confident, one that's open to the world, one that believes anything is possible. And yes, it will be hard. There will be days when your mind feels heavy, when your progress feels invisible, when you want to give up. But those are the days that build you. Those are the days that count. Remember this. The pain of learning is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. So which pain will you choose? 5 months from now, you could still be doubting yourself, or you could be speaking freely, living a new life, opening new doors. The choice is yours. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. Speaking English confidently, traveling, working, laughing with people from other countries, telling your story without fear. Can you see that person? Good. Because that person is you, waiting on the other side of discipline. Now go meet them. Don't wait for motivation. Create it. Don't wait for the perfect method. Make your own. Don't wait for someone to believe in you. Believe in yourself first. Start small. Speak one sentence, then another, then one more. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you've crossed the line between learning English and living it. That's the moment when everything changes. That's the moment when you become unstoppable. So this is my challenge to you. Speak today. Even if it's broken, even if it's simple. Speak, because silence never made anyone fluent. And when that voice inside says, you can't, remember mine saying, yes, you can. This is your time, your story, your transformation. Start now. Stay strong and never give up. Because one day soon you'll look back and say the same words I said. I did it.